Alright guys, so we are on our way to Centerton Nursery in Bridgeton, New Jersey for a tour of a commercial grower of plants. So it's my understanding that this particular nursery specializes in shrubs and evergreens and perennials, and then I think they also have some they grow like starter vegetable plants as well. So I got to know Centerton Nursery through Peter from Plant Concepts or Plant Tip, and then when I came to pick up some plants at the nursery, they said, if you ever want to come by and do a tour, and I'm like, okay, that's fine with me. So we're on our way there now. Exciting. All right, we are pulling in. And of course, they have beautiful plants. I would maybe like to hear from you about the history.
So this little square brown shack, from where that mailbox is to the door, that was our office in 1975. That was it. And in there was a desk for my grandfather, for our original secretary, and a bathroom. And the bathroom was just a false wall that was built around one corner, and a toilet and a sink. And that was it. That was the whole thing. And by 1976, our second year, my grandfather said that we're too cramped in here. We need to fit another desk in there. And so he took the wall off and just extended the roof and moved it. And so we doubled the size of the office. And that was our office from 1976 to 1983.
And now you have your big old office.
Now we got the big old office,
yeah,
which we've outgrown, which we got to do something about now. But in 75, so we bought it in 74, we started selling in 75. He had, I think it was 18 little tiny huts that were 200 by 14. And we basically grew only what are called Hydrangeas plants, and that was it. And so we basically had this little piece of property where our loading dock is now, and there were a couple of greenhouses here, and then we owned a few acres back in this direction, and so we had a few of those huts right there, and that was it.
So you expanded not only your office space but just your growing space as well.
And so the land along the wood line and back towards the back wood line was, 100 years ago was an orchard, and then after that was just all grain crops. My brother was born in 79. My dad came on in 78, and by the time my sister was born in 84, we had essentially built, not the greenhouses that are there today, but we had essentially built enough of those 14-foot wide little short huts to fill the space from us to that brown Morton building in front of us, where those power lines are. From there up to the woods. The only greenhouse here that we didn't design and manufacture here is the propagation house. In the late 80s, we started building this design, this large arch, the 31-foot wide design. And so we changed the design to this newer design down the way, which is much taller, but it's a softer bend, so you don't have that same weak point. So rather than the snow building up and collapsing it, the snow actually rolls off the side of it. And we kept expanding through the years, and we had, I graduated college in 01, or in 03, my brother in 01, and my sister in 05, and my sister actually didn't think that she wanted to do this. At that time, when she got out of college, was not a great job market, and she was looking for a job in communications. She couldn't find anybody. She's like, well, I'll work at the nursery just to fill my time. And serendipitously, we actually had our logistics manager decided one fall, he's like, I'm done. And so we asked Amy, I said, look, we think you'd be good at this, because logistics is like puzzle building. And so Amy said she'd give it a try. She killed it. She absolutely killed it. She found, I have a love of plants, and I have a love of the people that work here. So that's pretty much the history.
Yeah.
So we'll start over here. We ship a few different ways, because we're shipping to 32 states. And so these carts right here are all being loaded up for delivery. These carts are rental carts. So they come in like this, all stacked up like that.
Okay.
And then we'll assemble them and load them with plant material, and then they get shipped to garden centers in Detroit or Milwaukee or Atlanta or Charlotte. And then this company, that CC company, then they'll pick them up at those garden centers, and then they'll break them down, and then they have depots basically peppered all over the country where other growers can then rent those racks, pick them up, assemble them, and basically do the exact same things.
And this is the good stuff. This is where...
Oh, this is like where actual plants are growing. Here, these are all our young plants that are going to be transplanted into larger pots over the next couple of weeks. And so it comes here in this like small, they call them plugs because they literally look like a little plug in a socket. But they're coming in from like these hostas just came in from Walter's Gardens yesterday. And you can kind of see like we've got a little bit of different plant material from different breeders from all over the world. And they'll send us, anywhere from 5 to 50 of a new plant that hasn't hit the market yet. And then
that's so exciting.
We trial some of it here.
So how does that work if you have specific trial plants? Do you report back to the original patent whoever owns it?
Right. That's exactly right. So and then we have to report back to them what we thought about it, if we think we can proceed to put it into production, all that sort of stuff. Not every plant will work well
in our climate,
our climate, in our soil mix, all that stuff. There's so many factors that could go into why we would be successful or not with a given product, and so the trialing is really a helpful thing.
Look at all these houses, guys.
Well, there's a lot of empty houses or freshly potted houses. So this time of year we're over our peak sales. So that's a whole house of nothing but Asclepias tuberosa. So then we got a house of lavender almost ready to go. This is Sweet Romance, which is the only proven winner's lavender right now. And then the rest of it is all types of English lavender. And so we have multiple crops of lavender a year. In fact, you'll see in a couple of minutes, you'll see a greenhouse that we set up where we almost, up until this year, we grew nothing but lavender. Like, was specifically set up to only grow lavender.
Very nice.
Because lavender's finicky. These houses have automated roll-up sides, so these houses are set, I think, at like 74. So below 74, the walls are going to stay closed just to keep a little bit of heat on the inside. When you're a customer of ours, and you can log onto our website and see, oh, well, this is marked as saleable size, means it's just big enough, it's rooted in the can. It's big enough that you could bring it in and sell it at retail. And then we mark if it's budded, it's marked as such. If it's in bloom, we mark it just so that our customers are aware of like what the current visual quality of the product is.
And when you say customers, you're not talking about retail sales, right? You're talking about
our garden center customers.
Right. These are calla lilies. These are my favorite flower.
So we do a little bit of tender things for summer color sales just to help fill in a little bit. There's certain times of the year where you just need a little bit more color.
Do you guys grow hydrangeas?
Yeah, we do. We do grow a lot of hydrangeas.
And this is another lavender? Is that lavender?
That was overflow lavender from the other that didn't fit.
Oh, what a wonderful thing. Overflow of lavender.
Yeah, really. That's all summer blooming rudbeckia.
Oh, beautiful.
So all 13 of these houses are consolidated down into this one house. So that's how much plant material we have left out of 13 houses. These are just the drips and drabs that are left that are still very nice, very viable plants.
I see that. They're pretty large too.
So we actually keep them around because we still have landscapers that'll come in, and they know that if they're putting them into a job that has irrigation, they're going to be fine, and it's a really great price point.
Look at that.
Yeah, if you left it with lavender.
Oh, that's pretty. I know. Look at that. Beautiful. How many of these houses do you have in total on the property?
So these next to us are 450 feet by 31.
These here?
Yeah, these here.
Oof.
And we have 34 of those. The ones in front of us are still 31 wide, but they're 600 long.
I can see they're very, very long.
107 of those.
It goes all the way from here.
Yeah, when we get down to the end of the aisleway, you can
look at that.
Really look inside and see. We're actually going to get out and take a look at our propagation facility. This is where we make the young plants. We make our own plugs here. So we bring in cuttings from a bunch of different places. So some of them are taken here. So this is a spirea cutting. So we'll go out into our own plant material as long as we know it's disease free and it's clean. We'll take cuttings off of our own plant material in the nursery, and then they all get prepped and sanitized here on these tables. And then this is just a big potting line where we'll label the trays in terms of how many flats of a certain product we need to grow. And so each tray gets a label with its stick date and the plant name. So
this is Spirea Magic Carpet,
Yep.
and this would be, right, the date that you were potting it up.
So this all comes through here, and this is just a flat filler that fills the pots, the trays with soil. This is a tray dispenser, but it's only good on one of the size, so our most common size tray, which is that 21 cell tray, is set up for that. So it'll dispense trays on non-standard sizes. That's why we have that feeding conveyor. So we'll just have somebody there that feeds the conveyors, the trays on the conveyor one by one. And so the tray gets filled with soil. Then it gets wetted down. So these are watering bars. As it comes through, water comes on.
And it's like little holes in here or something?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it just looks like a shower coming down on top of them.
Oh, nice.
Not a lot of water, but you can't give it too much at once because
it'll all move the soil
peat moss
around.
is buoyant, so it'll actually float out of the tray. This is a rice hull dispenser, so you can see on this side, these are literally the husks of a rice grain.
And that's to mulch?
Yeah, so that's basically to mulch the top of the tray for weed prevention. And so then it comes here, up here, and this is called a click clack. There's lots of different names for it, but with the person that taught us how to build it, it's called it a click clack. So if there's a tray here, it pushes this out and then holds the next tray in place, which will then push this out and hold it. So this conveyor keeps running, and so every person that works in here always has an empty tray with just a filled tray with no cuttings in it. They take that tray down, they stick the cuttings that they prepped, and then they get set here.
So this table is actually where they put the little plugs in the tray here.
Yeah, so they're putting the cuttings into the plugs right here, and then they get set on that conveyor. They come through another watering tunnel, so they get wet down again, and then they come down here, and then they go into our main propagation facility. So you can see they come through that little door right there and onto this main conveyor this one's stationary, and then each one of these segments is called a bay, and so each bay has a walking conveyor that normally stays home like those are against the wall, but you can walk them up. So let's say you were sticking plant material that needs to get set down right here. The plant material will come down this conveyor, and then rather than carrying it or carting it out here, it just walks on these conveyors and gets set down in place.
Very nice. So much of this is automated. Things that I would have thought were done by a person, like by hand.
Yeah.
Much of it is automated.
There's still a lot done by hand, but just because there's certain jobs where, you know, it's a living thing. It's delicate. You can't beat it up too much to the sake that it might negatively affect the plant. So this is viburnum, and that's basically what you're sticking right there.
A little cutting.
A little cutting, and they get treated. There's lots of different ways to do it. Most people do treat with some type of rooting hormone that helps get the plant, like, because you're taking a branch, you know, it's essentially like cutting off an arm and growing a body off that arm, right? So you need to induce that thing to grow a little bit of roots. And so you spray it with a hormone that's naturally occurring in the plant. You're just cranking up the juice a little bit. But these are all done on the farm. But a lot of this stuff.
And what are these here?
That is Juniper tortuosa. That's that twisted, gnarly-looking juniper that you see a lot.
Yes. Very architectural.
Common name is Hollywood juniper. Yeah, it's very architectural. So like this Nepeta, these cuttings came from a cutting farm in Colombia. And so they come in like that.
Oh, wow.
Like tiny, tiny, tiny. Like that's about what we get from Colombia. But they do what's called, going back to a mother stock. So they keep genetically perfect stock plants in a laboratory in different parts of the world. And then they'll produce them via tissue culture and do what's called virus indexing, which is basically means you're forcing the plant to grow faster than a virus could move through the plant, and then you take the tip of that plant to try to prevent, if there wasn't a virus in the base of the plant, that it wouldn't be on the tip. And then you take that tip and then you produce that in a tissue culture setting and make thousands of that. Then they sell
it's a very controlled.
Oh yeah,
process.
very, very
It's
controlled.
not like they grow it and you
Exactly.
just find someone that does it.
Yeah, and they have very strict standards in terms of how big it needs to be. So if you order 10,000, you get 10,000 that essentially look like that. They're going to be all the same.
Okay.
And so we can't replicate that same thing. We can't take cuttings all year long. We might want to root something that's not actively growing. So it's a lot easier and cheaper in the long run to get those things shipped from wherever. In February, there were a bit of root about the size of your thumb. And then, so we plant that out, and then this.
Oh, get some of the root action there.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
So we'll take this plant, and then this will get put into a 2-gallon container in about a month, and then this will get sold next spring. So on average, we're producing about 750,000 plugs a year in here. So it's a lot. Because one of your biggest problems when you have so many plants tucked in so close like this, disease is your biggest issue.
Do you ever have to deal with pest issues?
So thankfully in here, because this is such a controlled environment, we do everything in here with what's called biological control. So we release bugs and mites that will attack the bugs and mites that would attack the plant material.
Like
So-
ladybugs?
Yeah, well, ladybugs a little bit. Ladybugs are expensive and they don't work as fast. We use like a parasitic wasp. There are types of
You
parasitic
guys release wasps?
Yeah, so they're not a wasp that would bite a human being. It's a little morbid. They use an aphid as an egg sac. So they will sting an aphid and inject their egg into the aphid, and then the aphid will grow as a parasite inside the aphid and kill the aphid. Except it happens.
That is quite morbid.
It happens pretty often, and it happens at a pretty fast rate. And then the beauty of it is as the aphid dies, then you hatch another parasitic wasp.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so
You like all of them.
so it's
I need to find me
self-sustaining.
some wasps
Wow.
for my garden because the aphids are attacking my roses.
So the beauty of it is the only thing we actually have to spray in terms of chemicals in here is fungicide. We have
Stuff you never know
Yeah.
about how plants grow.
yeah. Now you know. Now you know. So it's fun. Yeah. So you're basically releasing bugs that eat the bugs that eat your plants, but they won't. But the original bugs won't eat your plants.
Fascinating.
That's how we do it. So that's propagation. That's where all the plants start. This is where we grow all of the edible product, and we keep it completely separate. Peppers like a certain growing condition, and basil likes a very certain growing condition, and tomatoes like a different growing condition. So rather than having these huge houses filled with all these little pots that all basically need to be grown together, we have these tiny little segregated huts where we can say, well, this house is a tomato house, and this house is a mint house, and this house is a basil house, and so on and so forth, all the way down. And then they're all connected by a tunnel on the far end, a corridor. And so there's so much to learn that it's easier just to train a crew to know this space.
So you have people who specialize in specific herb or specific vegetable.
Yep, pretty much. So I brought you in the basil house just because it's a little bit different. With basil, the biggest growing problem is downy mildew. And if we send our customer a basil with downy mildew, they'll probably reject it and send it back. So we need to make sure that they stay clean. And the easiest way to do that is to basically never allow the foliage to get wet. And so this is what's called a capillary mat. So,
Oh, look at this.
so the water drains onto the mat, and the mat basically soaks up the water and allows the roots on the bottom to get moist without getting the plants on top.
So bottom watering, and it's like a wicking, like it just
Yep,
wicks
this
it
is
up
what-
through the
that's
soil.
all it is.
Yeah, look, it's got plants.
I mean, this is about as perfect as you're going to get. No mildew, nice and healthy. And it smells great.
It does smell great.
Oh, I think it's the Thai basil.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
smells good.
So this is what we didn't sell this week. So we'll try to sell some of it early next week, but technically this will probably end up getting, we'll save the pot and the label and everything, but the plant will get tossed. And so this is a little bit bigger than that we're going to sell next week. And then this is for the week after, and then this is for the week after that. The plant material that we've been selling there was planned for almost 18 months ago. So we're speculating what we think we can sell anywhere from 18 to 36 months from now. And that's assuming that it's a crop that only takes a year to grow. Some of these crops are 4 years old by the time we sell them. So it's a lot of planning and a lot of guesswork. But
It smells so good in here. See, Andrew, you think that I hoard pots in the garage. I don't hoard pots. Now this is pots. Look at this.
well, I mean, pots are the new gold because plastic's gone up so much this year with COVID.
Those pots are neatly stacked.
So you have a hanging basket that's hanging on this hook, and then that's the water emitter for that, and then a hanging basket that hangs on the bar itself, and so they're staggered so they can be stacked.
Right.
Next to
And
one
is
another.
this used to grab the...
Yeah, that's literally, you just, when you're, because most of the people that are pulling these plants are not 6'4", so they can come in here, just grab it and pull it off the hook, and then, but that's what that's for.
What kind of hanging baskets did you have this year?
We do, not a ton, but people do like a hanging basket strawberry. And they'll just harvest off of it for about 6 weeks, and then they'll chuck it, actually.
But they're perennial.
Yeah, I know. But we'll do hanging basket tomatoes, and
And these are tomatoes.
yeah, so that would have been this past week. That's what's left with this past week's tomatoes. So once it gets that tall, our customers don't want it. Even though
you could just
bury it. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah,
I just want, everything looks so neat.
well, I
Like,
mean,
it looks so neat.
the cleanliness thing, it was so being dirty, it's a plant health issue, it's an employee safety issue, and it's also a bit of pride in that you're taking care of
Right.
what you're doing. So we try to keep things fairly well organized. But so pretty much all the vegetables that we grow come off of one of these two lines. So if you remember the line in propagation, well, this is just that on steroids and something beyond steroids.
So it puts the pots in the trays.
Yes, so these machines, they literally, the whole thing moves up and down and kind of in this like up and down motion where it drops down and then it ejects 3 pots. And so it does, so this machine does the first 3 pots on the tray, and this machine does, or the first 3 rows, and this one does the last 3 rows because of speed. It's easier for 2 machines to do half the tray a piece rather than 1 machine to do the whole tray.
Right, to do everything. What do you do if one of these breaks?
If one of these breaks, we have these big, we call them the rolling cages that we set up, and we just have in spare time, we'll have them make empty trays. And they'll just make up the trays, and then they'll just set them here. They'll just stage them right here. And they'll just shut those machines off. Well, some of the minor fixes we can do here, some of the more advanced fixes, these are actually connected through the internet to the plant that built them in Rotterdam. So that's something. So if we have something that we think is like a programming error, or they can actually log into the computers that run all this stuff and find out, all right, well, it's kicking this type of error, it's kicking that type of error, and we can be on the phone with them, and they say, oh, look at this, tell us what this looks like, that sort of stuff. And then if it's really bad, then we get a technician that comes in from, they have a North American office in Vancouver, unfortunately, but so that's fun when you're trying to deal with somebody that's 5 hours ahead of you and somebody else is 3 hours behind. Scheduling. So there's some days we're in here at like 4 o'clock in the morning on the phone with Holland, and then we're here late in the evening on the phone with Vancouver.
Because I'm sure growers already don't wake up so early in the morning.
Well, yeah. I mean, for this, we actually buy in the soil pre-mixed. So these tall white stacks on the side are actually just vacuum sealed pre-mixed soil that's specifically catered for growing small pot edibles. This is called a dibbler. So this is actually a pressure plate that presses down. If we're planting a plug that's, say, bigger than my thumb, we actually do that pressure plate drops down on top of the soil, packs the soil down, and then those fingers will drop down between it and just puncture a little hole in the soil just to get it started, so that you're not forcing the root system to make
Push
its own
through
hole.
the soil.
Exactly.
Right.
So it comes through the dibbler, and then it comes to here, and this is a mechanical transplanter. The plug trays ride back here, and they get fed in from that end, and so this thing will feed off of 2 plug trays at the same time. Those 4 grippers move on a gantry system. Well, 8. So those 4 and this 4, each 4 will feed out of a source tray, and that gantry will move up and out. And then these motors will move these fingers back and forth on this rubber belt there, and they're so hyper accurate within, I think, 1/10 of a millimeter. They know exactly where that plug is, and they'll grab it, and then those grippers will then move up and space out to the spacing of your destination tray, which is here, whether it's a quart or a pint. You just tell the computer what size is your source tray, what size is your destination tray, and then it does the math to figure out how to
Where
get
it
those
needs to put
plugs
it. Oh my
out of there
goodness.
into here. When we bought this machine, part of the purchase price was 3 days of training. So you basically had school for 3 days of how to run and operate this machine. It's actually, there's no cameras. It's doing everything by lasers and logic.
And what is
here's the
this
whole big
here?
cycle ring. Oh, that?
Yeah.
That's a plug popper. So if the trays are rooted too heavily, the plugs will get stuck just because of the expansion of the root inside that little cell. And so you can set a tray in there, and then it just helps loosen the plugs inside of the tray.
Very nice. So that you don't do too much root damage. Is that?
Well, it's just so that when that gripper goes in and grabs that plant, if it's too tight in there, it'll try to
pull the
lift the
whole
whole
plant.
tray up. So they'll come up here, and then you close this to lock it down, and then you just hit that a little bit just to lift them all up once, set it back down, then you put it on the machine, and then it's a lot smoother. A lot smoother.
It's almost. It looks like a torture device.
A little bit. Yeah. And then this is our seeding line. So anything, all the cucurbits, those are all done through this line. This is a drum, so this actually rolls and dibbles, whereas that one, that dibble plate that comes down and makes the holes in the soil. This one actually, as it rolls underneath, it makes the same dibbles. And then this is a drum seeder. And so this is actually a seed trough here. And so when you're seeding, say, cucumbers, you'll pour all your cucumber seeds in here and you'll fill up this trough. And if you get in here, you can see these little tiny holes.
Oh, I see.
So it
Did they
actually
shake out or something?
So this bin here is constantly vibrating, and then this has a vacuum inside of it. And so these holes have a vacuum on them, and then when so each little hole will pick up a seed as it rolls past. So you got all these seeds in here, there's a vacuum, and so each hole kind of like grabs the seed as it comes by and then carries it through, and then where it hits the bottom, where it needs to drop, then there's a little slot that covers up the hole so that the vacuum gets cut off and then it drops the seed.
This is very similar to how I seed my stuff, which is take the packet and go like that.
So then it comes up here, and then what we're basically doing here is we're just double checking that every slot got a seed that was supposed to get a seed, and then we label them. They'll have a stack of labels, and they'll go through, and these are all tag blocks, so once they go in, they won't come back out. You actually have to find the slot and put it in. Let me tell you, we've got an army of women in here that are amazing at this. Like, it would take me 2-3 minutes to label one 18 cell tray, and they're just sitting there like bam, 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 bam. So this is the cart loaders, and so then the trays, as they come down that line, they get turned 90 degrees right here. And so once it knows that this has 4 trays on it, it'll drop down to the bottom shelf on the cart. And so then you only have to come over and pay attention to this when a cart is completely full.
Right.
2 months, you're moving almost 2 million pots through this facility. In the winter, we'll actually plant our hellebores in this house.
That's
And
like one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
Andrew's like, that's my jam.
You've only seen about 1/3 of the plant so far, so. We'll,
I see a wasp.
yeah, oh, we use them.
I literally just saw a wasp. Look at that truck.
So this house was one of 6 full houses of hydrangea, and that's about all we have left. So these are getting moved. They'll get moved to some outdoor set down space, because by the time fall comes around, they'll be somewhere else.
Oh, that's so pretty.
it's-
Are those alliums back there?
Yeah, they are. We were doing some different allium trials. We had one of the local bulb supplier. He's like, I'll send you a couple of bulbs of like every allium we have. I'm like, okay.
Nice.
And one of them was just the most bizarre looking plant.
I'm into bizarre.
It's post bloom.
That's my
now,
jam.
But, you see that thing that looks like a firework that's going on?
Yes. What is that?
It's a type of flowering onion.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Schubert. Yeah, allium Schubert.
Oh my. What does it look like?
So,
Allium Schuberti.
Schubertii.
Can I see the tag so I can?
Go for it.
I'm gonna try to flash an image if I can find it on Google.
It is nuts. So, obviously, like spring blooming flowering onions, they bloom and then they go dormant for the year. So they're not dead; it's just dormant.
Right.
But it was. All these sticks were green, and on the end of all these flower sticks of these like starburst parts were basically little like purpley powder blue flowers, like little florets. And so you had all these flowers inside and all these ones out on the edge. I don't know if you can sell it because it looks weird.
It looks like an alien plant to you.
Totally unique from anything else that we grow.
And are those like a Globe
That's
Master?
Globemaster there.
Oh wow.
And then the ones that were all crooked to the right. That's the
Those
other problem
over
with
there, the
onions.
smaller one.
If they tip over because of the wind and it's a warm day, in 10 minutes or 15 minutes on its side, it'll start to grow crooked. And so
Oh yeah. So it has to be upright. People won't buy it. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, whatever that heuchera is in the back, that dark
That
purple
is
one is.
timeless night. Those are the last. We started the year with 2,000 pots. Those are the last two.
That's beautiful, guys.
Oh, and there's our
It's
left.
so
There's
good.
all our hellebores. They're left on the whole farm. Right
They
there.
got hellebores over here.
That was a whole house of hellebores, and that's what's left.
Oh my goodness.
So when you start selling through stuff because you need to keep potting, we call this a catch-all house. So anything that'll work in this type of setting, they all get sort of shoved together.
This is wonderful. This is an alien plant, guys. Look.
So all of this space out here that's open, these are all material that was planted in February and March. And the hope is a lot of the stuff that gets planted out here will get sold before October, call it 15th. So you can see some places where we've already sold through big portions of the crop. So one of the few things that get planted outside that stay outside in the winter are peonies and baptisia. So they're hardy enough that they don't need to be put inside of a cold frame greenhouse for the winter. Another catch-all house.
Oh my God. Is that what it, lupin? Is
Lupins,
that?
yeah.
Oh
yeah.
my goodness.
So
look at
that's
this.
all that's left of the lupins for the year. They're a really tough plant because if you don't get rid of them early, it's kind of like hellebores. They want to go dormant. They do a summer dormancy thing. So those are actually in the process of shutting down at the moment.
Well, they look beautiful to me. They
well,
look gorgeous.
as
I
long-
love
yeah.
them.
Yeah. They looked a lot better a month and a half ago.
You can see these from far away, guys. And he's right, they're coming out of bloom, but they still look so pretty. Look at this one. Just a sea of them.
Honestly, we need more young people involved in gardening, and they're not going to get it from just, they're not going to get it like organically. They're seeking this stuff out, and they're seeking it out on places like Instagram and YouTube and things like that. And I'm all for trying to get different avenues for getting younger people involved in gardening.
And I think that this year and last year were
Yeah.
definitely the
Oh,
year
yeah.
for that.
Azalea. So it's an azalea called Achievement. It's one of the latest blooming azaleas it is the latest blooming azalea.
Oh, roses. I see him. 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 Guys. Oh, that color is so pretty. That peachy color. Oh my God. Oh my, look at this. Wow.
So all of our roses are grown from Beirut product, and it comes in from, most of it's grown in San Joaquin Valley, which is like Central California. Some of it's grown in Arizona, some of it's grown in Texas, but California is the lion's share of it. In February, they kind of look like this. Obviously not in the pots, they come in completely free of soil. But just a few sticks and a few roots, and we will pot them up. We usually cut the tops back to about 6 to 8 inches. And then some get grown naturally outdoors, which is what these are. These outside are grown on drip irrigation. Kind of like the same way with the basil, the best way to keep roses healthy is to keep the foliage dry. Right. So the drip irrigation, you see the little drip tubes?
The little drip tubing.
So these are potted super late. They're all live, but they're just kind of coming along at their own pace. So we're gonna have really nice roses for July. Like, we're gonna have the nicest crop of roses that you'd ever have for July.
So when other people's roses have petered out, you're gonna have stuff that's like in bloom.
That's kind of the thing, and especially with the knockout, the shrub roses, that's something that people use pretty much all summer long. We're so far from our drainage pond, so we capture all of our runoff water, whether it's rain or excess irrigation, and then we filter it and purify it and then recycle it. We basically reuse our excess water, but we're so far from it here that we don't have anywhere to capture it. So with the drip irrigation, we don't have any runoff water. We don't have to worry about capturing it because it's all going to the pond.
It's all going right through the pond.
I live near both woods and a state park, so deer is definitely an issue, and deer will not touch a flowering onion. Will not. I've seen them eat everything else in the bed and leave those alone. So they obviously
don't like it.
Years and years ago, Eddie Murphy had this whole bit about if you were starving walking through a desert and somebody handed you a saltine cracker, you thought it was the best Ritz you ever had in your life. If you're hungry enough, you'll eat anything and it will taste good to you. And that's what deer do. If they're hungry enough, they'll eat anything.
Right.
But I've never seen them eat flowering onion. Pasta and daylily flowers.
The flowers.
Yeah, so that's the ultimate insult. So they won't really bother the foliage much, and then just when they're about to flower, they just come and they just eat the top of the flower scape off.
All these are boxwoods?
On the right.
On the right, okay.
On the left, this is all clefra.
Green Mountain.
So I have it in my yard. Very big leaves. Like if you look at the difference between the two.
This is
That's Gordo, and this is Green Mountain.
Yes, so this is Gordo, and that's Green Mountain.
Yeah, Green Mountain's what, by the name you can probably tell, it's more of an upright, it'll form a conical shape with age. Gordo is kind of just a meatball, what I like to call a meatball.
They're really pretty. I like the fact that it has these big old leaves.
Yeah, and it gives you a slightly different texture for a boxwood hedge. They do have a very distinctive smell, and I think that's what the deer don't like.
Like the old English boxwood, kind of.
It's not an overly pleasant smell, but if it means the deer don't eat it, I don't really care.
Right.
Do you guys ever do topiaries, or is that more of a specialty thing when it comes to growers?
And really what it comes down to is whether you have the personnel that know how to do it properly.
Right.
There's a fellow, so next door to us is a Home Depot grower, and they have a guide that they've employed for years, and he just knows how to do that stuff. It's not whether or not you can grow the plants, it's whether or not you have the artists there to perform their art. The only thing that's special at this house is everything's grown on rolling benches. So we can run this entire facility with basically 2 or 3 people. Because when you're potting a whole bench at a time. Instead of carrying one cart or one tray, you're carrying a whole bench worth of material. This is Merlot. This is a variegated French hybrid lavender.
Oh.
How cool is that thing?
Wait a minute.
That's one of Peter's plants, Peter Van Riesen from Concept Plants. So this is one of his.
Oh my god.
So.
Oh my god, it smells so good.
Right? Someone's either going to have to bring this inside in the winter or treat it more as an annual.
Okay. In what zones would that be hardy in?
7B. So
7B.
coastal Virginia probably would be okay. Anything south of there.
If
probably
someone
okay.
were to have like a cold frame or a hobby greenhouse,
I
would they
wouldn't
be
want
able
this to, in a pot. I wouldn't want this to go below 20 degrees. And like a lot of things that need to be well drained, they don't like to freeze and thaw. And so that's one of the biggest problems. Like technically we're in zone 7A, but there's a lot of zone 7 plants that won't live outside here because we freeze and we thaw and we freeze and we thaw. That freeze and thaw process really damages the plant.
wow,
damages the
these
roots of the
are
plants.
these are probably like the most favorite thing that I've seen here all day. These are so pretty.
Yeah.
I love it.
So this is our first year growing it. We did really well with it. And unlike most variegated lavender that we've grown in the past, is it's very stable. We don't see any leaf that's gone
They look
all
so
white
healthy.
or all green. Yeah, it's very consistent from one plant
Oh, I
to
see,
the
like the color, like the variegation, they can revert.
next. Yeah.
Okay, I
we
see.
Let's see.
Smells.
So this is platinum blonde, which is another, don't get me wrong, another great plant. There you can see it's got a couple of leaves that are coming up all green. Most gardeners are not going to notice it. I noticed it because I noticed it, but that Merlot is just so darn consistent. I mean, it just looks perfect.
And even the variegation, for some reason,
It
that
pops
one
more on
stands
that.
out more.
Well, I mean,
than this
even
one.
when if you go back to the head of the house and look, or go halfway between these two, and look back at this and look up at that, that's more
You can
striking.
see, yeah. I don't know what it is about, because I think the variegation is also a little bit more serrated
Yes.
on that other one. So
Yeah, that's the species of lavender that it is. Now, the one nice thing about platinum blonde, this will grow zone 6. Most zone 6
oh, so
places.
this
to
one
drain.
is at least hardy.
Yeah, this will grow down the Jersey Shore, no problem. Well drained soil. This time of year, we're starting to get some empty space, and so we're looking at different products that we can grow in this space through the summer months. The problem is it gets really hot in here. Like this
Yeah.
past week, even with the fans and exhaust running and everything, it was still about 105 in here, which lavender don't
wow.
mind.
But the people do.
Well, the people do. Most plants do. So this is a transfer rail here, so you can actually lift that whole railing up and then push this right onto that transfer rail and then roll it up and down.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I met a guy that grows caladiums. They grow them in like a 3-inch pot, and then they make them grow dormant. And so then they ship you this little dormant pot. So that was planted, I think, a week and a half ago. So that's like 9 days from dormancy.
Oh, that's really
Yeah,
fast.
yeah, it's
That's
fast because
really,
it's 100
really-
some degrees in here. Caladiums basically won't grow below 65. Like won't. They'll stop growing below 65. They're a warm season plant. So the one thing that I've been told about caladiums is don't let them dry out completely and don't let them go below 65. Besides that, they can pretty much take full sun. Most of them can take full sun. Most of them can take pretty much full canopy shade. They seem to like it in here. Yeah, so you can imagine it's when this is full, 6 huts full of nothing but lavender, the smells in here are
Oh.
pretty nice. So this is a multi-seeded plug, and then you put 3 in each. Once they're up to size and ready to ship, they're a really nice, substantial looking plant. There's some of your wasp eggs. All this stuff, that's and so a lot of them come in like sawdust mixture, and so they kind of get spooned out onto the plants.
Is that so? They come like when you get the wasps. These are like
It looks like sawdust.
it looks like sawdust. So that's
Yeah.
the eggs right there.
Yeah.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
the eggs mixed with more salt, like some sort of. It might be sawdust that it's mixed with, but basically, I've seen guys that'll they'll release them in front of like a fan, so they like blow and disperse. We found it works just as well. We actually just spoon it. Some of them actually come in like a big, like Parmesan cheese
Oh,
spreader.
stop!
Spreader.
He said Parmesan cheese.
So,
Oh, this is pretty.
but we put a handle on it.
Oh, that's so pretty.
I mean, how could you deny that?
Oh my God! Wait a minute.
And so this is the difference of that same variety, but 2 weeks grow time.
You guys probably are like I'm overstimulated right now. Like all the pretty things. You're probably so used to it, right? This is a family business.
Family
for
business,
you.
yeah.
This
I have
is
an
third
older brother and a
generation?
younger sister, third generation. Yeah, so we grew up in it. You just live in it.
Right. I'm
mean,
like,
don't
oh my
get me
God,
wrong.
all the pretty things.
Like when I saw this, we saw this in trials last year,
This is my favorite.
and I'm like, I still get excited.
Yeah.
You gotta get excited about new stuff. I mean, but like, how could you not get excited about that? Especially when you see it for the first time, just like you did down there. Even though I see lavender, thousands of lavender every day, I saw that last year, and I'm like,
That's different.
yeah, that's an ad.
Look at
There
this,
they are
Joe.
side by side.
This is the Merlot.
Yep.
And this is the Platinum Blonde.
Yep.
And look at how much more it pops because of that serrated leaf. I love that. Yeah, that's wonderful.
Hands
I
are
know.
gonna
I
smell
know.
like
My hands
lavender
sound
all
like.
day, which is not a terrible thing. So, but you get different variations. You have phenomenals that back there with its silvery foliage, and you know, you get the javelin with the
This one is
bigger
officially my
flowers.
favorite lavender now.
Take it. Take it with you.
Really?
Yeah, take it with you.
Hey.
We are a family business. We have a couple employees that have been here for more than 30 years. You know, we try to treat our employees well, so they keep coming back. We're a profit sharing company, so whether you just started this spring and you're pulling weeds, or you've worked here for 30 years and you're running the office, when the nursery does well, we all do well. And so because of that, we keep people around. So it's a great family atmosphere that we try to embrace, and it's worked out really well for us.